Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself. And today, what's today's date? I always keep forgetting to say the date when it comes to my videos and stuff. So the date is the 24th of January 2021, of course, and the time is 13:13. That's quite interesting. Yeah, 13:13 UK GMT time. Now, this video, I'm making it on this Sunday, but I'm actually going to probably release it on Wednesday. I might do one of those premiere timer things. Anyway, now, what is this video about today? Now, I try my best to look through all the comments on my videos and stuff like that, and just to read what people say. And some of the stuff you guys say is so funny, honestly, it cracks me up. And but of course there's hundreds of comments, which I'm very pleased for, but it means sometimes I can't get through all of them, as you can imagine. However, someone did ask me about maybe doing a sort of like a video on Putin, or something like that. Now, I'm debating in my mind whether or not to do this, because Putin is quite a character, quite a lot of dark wizardry going on there. But what I thought I would discuss today, Putin will come up a little bit, but I wanted to discuss Alexei Navalny, yeah, who we know recently has just been locked up, and in Russia. And what I also really felt guided to talk about today are some of the archetypes. Now, for those of you who've had consultations with me and have had my archetypal consultations, you will know what I'm talking about. Now, I use the Caroline Miss archetype deck. Brilliant. Yeah, so it's all the Jungian archetypes, and I think there's about 64 of them. And anyone that has an archetypal consultation with me, I'll send you a little email with a little link to the gallery of her archetypes. And this is a great way to discuss archetypes in a person's character. You would select 8 of your own and plus a child archetype. And then you have the prostitute, you have the victim, and you have the saboteur, which come as compulsory. And I've got this special kind of 12 house technique that I use, which many of my clients will know. And this really kind of opens people up like a can of beans, really does. Any consultation that you have with me, actually, you'll be opened up like a can of beans, put into a bowl, and then thrown into the microwave. But it's all for your own good, and it's just been great. And you guys are fantastic, by the way. Honestly, like, people's stories are just remarkable, and the wisdom. But in this context, when we talk about Alexei Navalny, now just for those that may not know, this is a Russian politician who is an activist, wants very much to be a leader of Russia. And of course, as we know, Putin doesn't like such ideas because he believes he should be the leader forever and ever and ever. And famously, Navalny was poisoned with Novichok, the nerve agent. And I've always said, this is a slight digression already. I always said, if I ever had a couple of dogs, that's what I'll call them. One will be called Novi and the other one will be called Novichok. I mean, the other would be called Chok. I just thought that would be quite funny. Calling them in the park, Novichok, Novichok. Now, this is something that a nerve agent that we've come to know very well in the UK, because famously we've had some people, originally Russian citizens who then became citizens of the UK, were poisoned with this by agents, dark actors, shall we say, in Russia. And this is global news, we all know about this. And going back to Navalny, what he managed to discover was that they poisoned him via his underpants. Yeah, can't make this up. So I want to talk about 4 archetypes today. So if we look here, let's get these out. I want to talk about 4 archetypes and how they play out in the Navalny story. So I want to talk about the hero slash heroine, and I'll quickly read that. So the shadow attribute, escapism and a false sense of heroism. Light attribute, passion for a journey of personal empowerment. I want to talk about the trickster. And this kind of shadow attribute is manipulating others through duplicity. And the light attribute is transcending convention, stuffiness, and predictable behavior. Now we know about the shadow attribute of the trickster. Think of how this is used in politics. I realised I didn't even have my light on. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I hope you can see me better now. Oh dear, sorry about that. So there's going to be a light change through half the video, but you know, I keep the bloopers in. I also want to talk about the martyr. And the shadow attribute of that is addiction to self-pity. Light attribute, learning to transcend nature, learning the transcendent nature of service to oneself or a cause. And the final one, and which will be very familiar to a lot of people, I want to talk about the king archetype, and particularly the good king and the bad king. So the shadow attributes: excessive feelings of entitlement, rulership without restraint. Now, don't we all know that one? Yeah. Light attributes: enlightened, benevolent leadership, benefiting those in your charge. So we all know that manifestation as well when we think about Thunderbird Biden. Yeah, he encapsulates those things. So let's get stuck in. So in a way, with this video, I'm sort of trying to hit two birds with one stone. On one part, we're going to be talking about Navalny, but of course, we also need to discuss Putin. Let me have a little slurp of my little drink here. Oh, delicious. And just for those that were concerned, I've been able to get some rest. I'm feeling a lot better. Well, I'm completely recovered now, which is great. And it was so nice. I just chilled out yesterday. I just chilled. I did do a little bit of work because I'm realizing I'm a little bit of a workaholic on some level, but I also watched some TV programs and stuff. Oh, and I just started watching the first series of A Discovery of Witches. I recommend it. I think it started in 2018. New series is out, but you know, anything like that about witchcraft and books and all that stuff, oh, got me inspired. And it's quite good so far, but I've only seen 2 episodes. Anyway, I digress. So Alexei Navalny, now he is clearly a very brave man. So let's talk about the hero archetype. This is a man that has, now what do heroes do? Yeah, if we think, what do heroes do? What do heroes do? Heroes go on what is the archetypal story of all stories, which many people may know already, but it's often referred to as the hero's journey. Yeah, and part of the hero's journey is that a man or a woman or a boy or a girl is living their ordinary life, and then they are called to a place of action and adventure. On this adventure, they face all sorts of trials and tribulations, and ultimately there is this kind of slaying of a dragon or a gorgon or some kind of shadow force which they have to defeat. And often this can be a metaphor as well for the shadows that are within the hero themselves, you know, and they have to kind of go through this kind of alchemical process where life happens to them and they kind of basically they succeed. And then the point is that they also then return home and they give their story, their message, because really what the hero's journey is about a journey of self-empowerment and transformation, where it is part of the journey from childhood to adulthood for many people. And this is normally how that story manifests. Now, this story is the base of so many stories, or almost all of the stories of personal transformation are a hero's journey in some kind of way. And many of you of my viewers, of course, have a lot of experience in life. And the hero's journey is not just one journey. We often go on many of them, yeah. And often the stakes can get higher and more significant as we go along. But this is a big part of the human journey, the human psyche. But of course, as the Caroline Myss cards imply, there's light and shadow involved in this. And I just wanted to say one thing, which is now Alexei, and we know about Russia. Russia's often in the news. As we know, Russia's been meddling and interfering with so many things for decades. And we have Putin. Now the thing is, the name that comes to me, because I love to give people names. The name that just comes to me is almost like the Black Widow, or the Black Spider. There is, I think Black Widow is more appropriate, because there is this element where he spins his webs, his webs of influence, and he plucks, on certain strings to make things happen around the world. And this is what we've seen, without going too much into all of that. Now, I'm going to say something which is, and this might seem unusual, but I was actually quite disappointed with Alexei, for going back to Russia. Now, why do I say disappointed? The reason why I say disappointed is because I think he has fallen into the shadow of the hero, and the shadow of the hero and the shadow of the martyr. Now, it doesn't mean, and when I say the shadow of the martyr, I don't mean addiction to self-pity. Clearly, he doesn't have an addiction to self-pity. But the shadow of the martyr can be also as well sacrificing yourself for causes that are kind of beyond your scope to cope with, And in the end, it can actually, the martyr archetype has a huge element of self-destruction in it. And the shadow of the hero archetype is taking undue risks, taking undue risks, having a poor assessment of risk, and either putting yourself at undue risk or others. And this can manifest itself in different ways, because the hero archetype is a very important archetype for all of humanity, for men and women equally, because we all must go out into the world and have our adventures, mustn't we? We must go out in the world, have our adventures, have our stories, and bring back that wisdom and knowledge. And this will happen to us several times in our lives, but we all have at least one hero's journey, ideally. But life is dangerous. Life is full of risks. Maybe dangerous is not the right word, but for some people it is. And part of our responsibility to ourselves in life is surviving, surviving the trials and tribulations of life, and not putting ourselves and others at undue risk. Now let's talk about the trickster, because Navalny used the trickster archetype perfectly. You would have seen all the videos on CNN where he was able to call up people from the KGB, and impersonating a high official, which is a classic trickster mood, impersonating someone or something, and then getting this vital information where he was able to speak to an agent that revealed that they had poisoned him by putting Novichok in his underpants. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And what did it do? It caused huge embarrassment, yeah, for Putin and the KGB. And that is really, in many ways, the highest role of the trickster, which is to pop, yeah, which is to pop the inflated egos of people that are too high up in their hot air balloons. Yeah, that is the real role of the trickster. Yeah, because it brings that dose of reality. However, there is danger in doing such things, because when we think of the energy of the dark king, yeah, so if we read here, the shadow attributes of the king is excessive feelings of entitlement and rulership without restraint. It's basically dictatorship. Yeah, dictatorship. And unfortunately, we see too many examples of that around the world. If we think in terms of, you know, politics, that's rigged elections. That is holding on to power at all costs. That is, you know, kind of manipulating things. That's also about lying and deceit. Yeah. Sound familiar? You know, when we think of these shadow archetypes. And of course, Putin is one of the absolute epitome examples of this. And of course, a certain Trumpocalypse as well exhibited these kind of things. And I've actually coined a phrase for this, which I call V.M.S. Yeah, V.M.S. And you're probably thinking, what's that? And basically, it's vicious man bitch syndrome. Yeah, that's what I call it. Vicious man bitch syndrome. So what am I talking about? So how do we recognize this phenomena in the population? Now, what are the manifestations of this? The manifestations of that is basically the dark king, some of those things. But the key symptoms are this, which is lashing out either verbally or physically to others. Yeah, this is the man that tears other people down. Yeah, or it involves undermining or controlling behavior due to inner weakness and chaotic emotions. And it also manifests as criticizing unfairly, diminishing and destroying the light and beauty in others. Yeah. Another aspect of vicious man bitch syndrome is senses of entitlement and gaslighting. Yeah. And what's gaslighting? Gaslighting is basically, you know, you call out this vicious man bitch, you know, for his behavior and some of the things that he said and what have you. And then he turns around and he twists it and he get gaslighted and basically tries to make out it was all your fault. Yeah. Or what was said was not really what was meant, and what was actually meant was something else, and blah, blah, blah. And it, you know, all these forms of manipulation to make the victim of these attacks feel ashamed or embarrassed or as if it was their fault or they caused the situation. Yeah. So many of you will recognize this behavior, because really there is actually quite a lot. There is an epidemic of V.M.S in the world. There's a lot of vicious man bitches out there, and this can happen in terms of people's bosses. This could be spouses, you know, partners, could be brothers, relatives. But we also see this a lot in what? Politics, don't we? Politics. We've just had, you know, Trumpocalypse just leave, the White House, and I would say that is one of the biggest cases of V.M.S I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, because what did he do? He would gaslight people. He'd even gaslight himself. But one of the giveaways of this is the second Someone who is suffering with vicious man bitch syndrome. What happens is the second that they're disappointed in any way, they lash out. Yeah, they're spiteful. Yeah, and they come out with their nastiness. Yes. And this is an important thing to discuss, because there is too much of this in the world. And we saw a great deal of this, of course, in the Trump administration. And we see a great deal of this as well in the Republicans. But we also see it in all politics, particularly the trickster as well. I would say the trickster archetype was very evident when it came to Brexit. A lot of tricksters, especially some, we've got a douchebag in the UK called Nigel Farage. Now, some people may not agree with me calling him that, but really he is, and he's done a lot of damage, to our reputation as a nation, and we're now seeing the fallout of this as well because of Brexit. You know, we've now got fish rotting on ships, and businesses really not being able to trade because of new tariffs and all that stuff. But that is for another debate and discussion, and I'll probably do a Brexit special actually. But going back to Alexei, now when he used the trickster archetype, yeah, he exposed weaknesses in the Kremlin, yeah, well, in the KGB, but by extent the Kremlin, because Putin is a KGB man after all. And it's very dangerous, as some of you may know from experience, to contradict someone that is suffering from V.M.S. Yeah, because what do? They lash out because inwardly they're scared. Yeah, because they don't have inner authority. They don't have access to the good king. The good king is able to control his emotions and temper, even if he's burning inside, and able to use his emotions in constructive ways. And again, we see this with Joe Biden. Now, I'm not saying Joe Biden's perfect, you know, whatever, but look, the guy's been around for ages, yeah? So I think we know all the skeletons in his closet, and he has hit the ground running. And one of the giveaways of the good king is order and peace and structure. The good king brings order to chaos and praises people and acknowledges people, yeah? You noticed as well, what did Biden talk about? Bringing people together, peace, dignity, respect. These are all qualities of the good king, who will live these qualities himself. But someone with vicious man bitch syndrome cannot do this, yeah? Because inwardly they're chaotic. And what happens is when they see a light that is shining, yeah, maybe like Navalny, when they see someone that can embody these higher qualities, be they man or woman, of the king, then what they feel compelled to do is tear that person down, yeah? Because they feel threatened, yeah? Because they feel then inwardly, they feel they're not enough, yeah? So when Navalny used the trickster archetype to expose and embarrass the KGB and the Kremlin, that put him in more danger. Yeah, put him in more danger. So, sadly, because the archetypes come with their shadow forms. Now remember, Alexei was poisoned, yeah, and he was on the plane, had to be rushed off the plane, given immediate medical attention, and then he was flown to Germany. The agent actually confessed to him that they gave him an extra dose, and if he hadn't actually had treatment at that time, he would have died, yeah? So the question is, why did he go back, yeah? When it was made abundantly clear, you know, with these trumped up claims that he would be arrested and imprisoned. Why did he go back? And for me, this is where we need to discuss the shadow of these two archetypes, because on one hand, remember what I said about the hero, that part of the hero, the shadow of the hero, is part of slaying the dragon. So if we think of Navalny used trickster to slay a certain aspect of the dragon of the KGB, yeah, which was just unmasking them to be not as competent as they would like to be. But it didn't kill the dragon. It was a flesh wound. Yeah, and we all know what happens to an animal when it's injured. It becomes what? More vicious. And it's a very dangerous thing to embarrass, yeah, to embarrass such forces, yeah, because they get more determined and more rattled and more ready to tear down. So when he used his trickster in the form of the hero, using his trickster archetype, that made the Black Widow very, very angry, yeah? Now, what I would say here, the logical and sensible thing for Navalny to have done would have been to stay away from Russia, yeah? Because his greatest power really was the trickster, yeah? Exposing, popping balloons, exposing elements of the Russian government with this kind of drip of incompetence, revealing incompetence or corruption, because that's also as well one of his things, was this anti-corruption thing. But sometimes, not even sometimes, a lot of the time, we as human beings can become afraid of our own power, of our own light. And sometimes what we do to ourselves is we sabotage the light within ourselves, yeah, because we're afraid of the change or changes when we stand up in our truth, when we stand up in our light, because that's what happens when we stand up in our truth, when we stand up in our light, and when we radiate that energy of the king or queen in that truthful form in our life, our life changes and we change the lives of others. And I think there was an element here where Alexei, in his hero form, using the trickster, triggered the negative side of the martyr, yeah, which can be self-sacrifice, yeah. The martyr is naturally self-sacrificing, but it's when you essentially throw yourself upon the sword unnecessarily. And I think deep down in part of Alexei's psyche, he was afraid of actually what he unleashed, what he did. Yeah, because he really embarrassed Russia. Because think about this. Why go back to a place and a country with a government that literally wants you dead and poisoned you with Novichok? Yeah? Poisoned him with Novichok. Why go back? What is that all about? And I think it was an element of where, on a deep subconscious level, Navalny felt frightened by his own power, what he was able to do, because he put Russia in a spotlight. Remember, this was global news. And I think him returning to Russia was an act of self-sacrifice, but in one level, but also self-sabotage. Because his greatest power was actually being able to use the trickster and comment from the outside. And if he had actually maintained that position, because remember, if the Novichok thing failed, so if he's remained outside of the country, they wouldn't be able to pull off that trick again. Yeah, really, literally, you can only pull off, putting poison in the underpants once. Yeah. So Alexei actually had more power being outside of Russia and exposing everything and building, using the trickster and the hero and the light side of the martyr to build up an internal kind of rebellion inside Russia that really would have threatened the Black Widow. Yeah. But instead, what he did was he undermined that and he sabotaged that, and he went back. And of course, what did he do? He went back to the web, and instantly, what does a spider do? The second that a fly falls onto its web, it gets stuck. Yeah, so as soon as he came off the plane, he was arrested. That's like the stickiness of the web. And then what does the spider do? It immediately grabs its victim and starts wrapping it up, binding it up, and then it injects it with poison, yeah, to paralyze it, and then it's done for, finished, yeah. And in a way, this is what has happened to Alexei. Now we'll see if he'll be released or blah blah blah, but what I will say is this: it is unlikely, because he has aroused in the Black Widow a serious case of V.M.S, yeah, big time, vicious man bitch syndrome up to the max. And the world will be lucky if Navalny sees the light of day ever again, because now he's in the clutches, now he's been wrapped up, and he has embarrassed the Russian government severely, and I feel like really that was a big mistake. So anyway, so I don't want this video to be too long, and oh goodness, and that's not the most positive note to finish on, is it? So let me finish on a positive note. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Navalny, and of course his wife was doing her bits and bobs and she's been released and whatever, but really he put himself into that situation. Not to dismiss his efforts and stuff like that, but and I wish him the best. But in talking about these archetypes as well, I wanted to show that we are, as human beings, we're often battling with the light and the shade of our archetypes, these universal thought forms that exist, you know, really discussed, you know, by Carl Jung, and really codified. And then of course Caroline Myss has done her cards and stuff like this, and these are incredible tools for self-discovery, as clients have taken my consultation know. So wanting to finish on a positive note, what we need more of in the world is the light attributes of the king, yeah, or the queen, yeah, be they king or queen. And again, just talking about enlightened, benevolent leadership benefiting those in your charge is the energies of the good king. So if we think, of course, of Joe Biden, who really does embody that energy, that light will spread and grow in the world, and we will get more people stepping into that positive energy. And yeah, I think that's essentially what I want to say on the subject. If you've liked this, please comment below, and I will do more stuff on the archetypes, because I think they're just so important, and especially for me with this this technique I use in terms of my archetypal blueprint, where the cards turn up in the person's chart is so revealing, because I also compare the natal chart with a special 12 house chart that I create as well for the archetypes, and there's a technique that I use. And so just to wrap up, I hope you enjoyed that, but also as well, as we go into this new period of transformation in the world, think about what your personal archetypes might be and how you manifest the shadow or the light of those archetypes. And also as well, think of how those manifest as well in the people around you. Because we need to just remember this, like Nelson Mandela said, it is not our shadow that we fear most, it is our light. Yes. So with that, I just want to finish there. So again, pray for the highest good and outcome for the world. Let's hope that we can take this new positive energy that the Biden administration is bringing in, and that can spread out and fertilize and we can finally start getting back to some sense of normality, although things will never be the same again as they were before. Anyway, so with that, I will finish there. And I just want to say a thank you as well to my new subscribers, and a thank you as well to my clients. I've seen over 200 of you now. Oh, can you believe it? And I've got about 65 more consultations to do before I take my break in March. Although technically I've got 3 in March. Somehow 3 people managed to slip in under the radar. But anyway, never mind. So with that, I'm going to finish up. So love and light, everyone, and all the best. Oh, and also as well, it snowed here in London today. So I'm going to show a little bit of that at the end of this video when, you know,